the new PGA Tour Player Impact Program. Now, this is a new initiative designed by the PGA Tour, which includes a $40 million prize fund designed to encourage the best players in the world to engage more with fans and grow the game. The Player Impact Program is the PGA Tour's new fund to reward the players who are growing the game the most and engaging with the fans to help grow the game for the future. Now, I just did a video on how much PGA Tour players make, who earns the most, and how much Rory McIlroy and Tiger Woods have earned per shot since the start of their golfing career, so make sure you guys check out that video on my channel. But in this video, we are taking a look at the new $40 million prize fund designed to reward the best players in the game. Now, some of you might be thinking, why do we need another prize fund? Don't these guys earn enough? Especially as this is really rewarding the most elite players, the most popular players. So it's kind of interesting that you're kind of building wealth on wealth. You're not so much rewarding some of the lower players for other things, you're really rewarding the highest earning players potentially in the game as well. So let's dive in and let's take a look at this. What is the PGA Tour's bonus pool and which golfers will benefit from it? Well, the PGA Tour has launched an additional financial bonus pool for the biggest names in golf, with players judged by their influence off the course rather than tournament results. As reported by Golf Week, the Tour's new Player Impact Program will identify the 10 biggest needle movers in the sport and compensate them through a $40 million fund, with the system designed to compensate players that produce the most engagement from fans and sponsors. So basically, this is all about growing the game of golf. They're rewarding the people who maybe put more time and energy into things off the golf course. This is nothing to do with scoring, it's nothing to do with results. It's all about engagement, social media, giving back, growing the sport, giving back to fans and sponsors, and just growing the game for the future. Basically, the fund will be distributed among 10 players at the end of the year, with the most valuable getting $8 million. That is quite significant. If you imagine the FedEx Cup winner gets $15 million, and this is half of that, and you know, it's for not even the things they're doing on the golf course. It's quite incredible. While the list is not set to be published in the same way that the FedEx Cup and World Rankings are made public, I would imagine it will be hard to do that. Basically, they're saying they're not going to let us know who's the most valuable and who's on the list. I would imagine this will be leaked, and when it is, I will bring it to you guys, so make sure you do like this video and subscribe to the channel. Those 10 players will be determined based on their impact score within the sport, with that number coming from combining several metrics that can be used to quantify a golfer's added value to the game. One system used will be the MVP Index, a company founded by the father of three-time major champion Jordan Spieth, which measure the value of engagement on social and digital channels. Now, this is incredibly interesting because not all of the best players in the world in terms of the rankings always have the most social media followers, social media reach, social media engagement. This is pretty interesting, and also Jordan Spieth's dad being the head of the company who the PGA Tour are partnering with to analyze this and to come out with this list and see who is the most valuable is incredibly interesting. That is also interesting because, to my mind, the biggest, most followed golfers in social media have always been Tiger Woods, Jordan Spieth, Rory McIlroy, Ricky Fowler. Those are probably the biggest names in my mind who are the most followed on social media. But I wouldn't say those necessarily have the highest engagement, meaning they may not be the ones who post the most, who get the most reach, who get the most engagement and grow the game. So it will be very interesting to how they analyze that. This report indicates that the Nielsen brand exposure rating, which places a value on the length of time players feature in TV broadcasts and possible exposure for sponsors, will be used along with a golfer's popularity when searched on Google. So here they're talking about they're going to be using Google ratings, Google popularity, things like this, the videos I do probably talking about golfers, all that sort of stuff, as well as time spent on TV, in media interviews, hitting golf shots. All of that will be taken into account. The frequency a golfer generates coverage across a range of media platforms will be taken into account, as well as their Q rating, which measures the familiarity and appeal of a player's brand. It's very, very interesting to see them doing this, taking so many different metrics from so many different forms of media to reward the players that, are getting the widest coverage. Now, it is important to note that these players probably will still be some of the best players in the game, because they're talking about TV coverage here, and typically the players towards the higher end of the leaderboard who are there week in, week out, typically get shown more on TV, and they get interviewed more as well after their rounds. So it's kind of like not necessarily will be the biggest players in the world, but you would still think all of those top 10 players will most likely be in the top 20 or even top 15 players of the best players in the world on the world rankings. The leading score from 2019, which Golf Channel report was included in a document circulated to players, was Tiger Woods, followed by Rory McIlroy, Brooks Koepka, Phil Mickelson, Ricky Fowler, with Jordan Spieth, Dustin Johnson, Justin Thomas, Justin Rose, and Adam Scott rounding out the top 10. So that's kind of an indicator of, some of the names which should be on this list. I mean, if you think about it, Tiger Woods, even when he's not playing well, tends to get featured on TV and always interviewed. So it will kind of be interesting to see if they put him in this, because he hardly plays any tournaments, and even when he is fit, obviously he doesn't play nearly as many tournaments as most of the guys. So he gets featured way more, but he's not playing as much, so he may not have as much time featured. So it's going to be really interesting. But you would have to think, because he's one of the most followed on social media, and he always gets coverage no matter how he's playing and always gets interviews, that there probably will he'll probably always be included in this to some degree. Another really interesting thing this could be encouraging is, for example, if a player doesn't want to be interviewed, they're basically losing out on the exposure. So some players don't always want to be interviewed after or before their round or whatever, if they're busy or whatever. They don't have to do that, but it is rewarding the ones who take more time, more energy, and do more interviews and more press coverage and get more exposure for sponsors, basically. So this program appears to be a direct reaction to the Premier Golf League, believed to be heavily financed by Saudi investors, which tried to lure some of golf's biggest names into a big money breakaway competition earlier last year. Rory McIlroy and Brooks Koepka were among the first players to say they were not interested in the league, with McIlroy telling reporters in January 2020 that the PGA proposals could be a catalyst for some changes on the PGA Tour that can help it grow and move forward. Now, if you're not familiar with that, the Premier Golf League is I'm not really sure if it's still happening, but basically it was going to be like almost a separate kind of rival type thing to the PGA Tour. It was kind of a bit unclear how it was going to work. It was talked about that it could possibly be a teams competition, either between two teams or between a few smaller teams. They tried to lure pretty much all the biggest players in the world away from the PGA Tour with huge amounts of money. Now, it's important to note that even if the players did sign up and agree to be in this, it wasn't a full schedule. So yes, they would miss some PGA Tour events, but it wasn't like a full year's calendar. They would still be able to play on the PGA Tour. But obviously with the PGA Tour, being the largest golf tour in the world, they were not very happy about this. I mean, there was a huge amount of money backing this. They were offering players crazy amounts of money, hundreds of millions of dollars to play in this for the likes of Tiger Woods and Rory McIlroy. I mean, they were offering, just absolutely ludicrous, life-changing amounts of money that these players probably would earn throughout a career, never mind a year or a few years. It seems like this idea has been shot down. I'm not sure if they're still trying to do it. If they are, I will find out some more information and let you guys know. But it's a bit sad, really, because I think the PGA Tour does feel incredibly threatened by this. I don't see that it necessarily has to be like a one or the other. I don't think it has to be that big of a competition. Obviously, it will be like competitive between the PGA Tour and this Premier Golf League, but I don't see why you could have some events throughout the year that were included with world ranking systems and things like that are maybe hosted in a different way, funded in a different way, ran in a different way, different formats. It would be quite entertaining. We've seen exhibition matches over the last few years from, Rory McIlroy, Tiger Woods, all these guys, Phil Mickelson, NFL players, and all these sorts of things that have been incredibly successful. And with actual full events that are hosted in a different way, in a different format, it would be pretty entertaining. And I would kind of like to see it happen, to be honest. But it doesn't look at the moment like it is, and also most of the players, because they are directly paid by the PGA Tour, you don't want to bite the hand that feeds you. You don't want to, I think there's a lot of people very high up in the PGA Tour who did not want to see this happen, and it's a bit of a shame, but, they got to protect what they have, and what they have is pretty incredible. So that is the new $40 million US fund for these players. Let me know what you guys think. It's quite interesting. I like the idea behind it. I think it needs to be done in the right way. I think a lot of people may be annoyed that these guys are just going to be earning more and more money now, and it's just going to be giving more money to the best players. I would kind of like to see it more as like a rewarding for maybe some of the charity work these players do, because a lot of them do own their own charities and do a lot of work helping promote different charities, working with different charities. I would think that may be a better way to reward some of the players, instead of, it seems like there will be a linear connection between playing good golf and this fund. It may not be directly linear because social media is also included and things like that. But yeah, I think it would be, you could maybe find a slightly different, more rewarding way that that would maybe reward some of the other players who are maybe not as high in the world rankings, but they actually give a lot of their time to other kind of communities and charities and things like that. I think that would be cool. But let me know what you guys think. Comment down below, like this video, subscribe to the channel. As always, guys, I'll see you in the next one. Also, check out the video previously to this where we talked about how much Rory McIlroy, Tiger Woods, and a bunch of other players earn per shot since the start of their careers on the PGA Tour. It's pretty mind-blowing. Hope you guys enjoy it. I'll see you in the next one, guys. As always, grip it and rip it.